So let me share with you some observations that I got from the physician who was on site throughout the night, last night, with the survivors at the accident site, as well as some involved in the recovery operations. They shared with me that the terrain is very challenging, it's very wet, it's slippery, and that the aircraft came to rest at about 30 degrees on a 30-degree slope. It came to rest in an area, in a ravine area on the slope. They estimated that there was about a 100-yard gash leading up the hillside as the plane traveled up the hillside and then came to rest. The debris field, according to those witnesses, was very contained. It was probably within about 100 yards. All four corners of the aircraft were identified, the nose, the tail, and the two wings, and the aircraft was largely intact. There were some pieces that were broken and damaged, but in large part the aircraft is contained. The floats are right there with the aircraft fuselage. The empennage or the tail was intact, and the witnesses estimated that the wings were still attached, but they were damaged and swept back at about a 30-degree angle. The physician who was on site throughout the night said there was a strong smell of fuel at the accident site, and that the terrain was very challenging. It was a steep hillside, and it was very slippery and wet. There was no post-crash fire, and none of the occupants of the aircraft were ejected from the aircraft. They were all contained within the fuselage following the accident. The front of the aircraft was severely damaged. When they were brought in, there was a physician and two EMTs that arrived into the accident site last night. I'm going to talk a little bit more about timeline in a minute. They were brought down at about, she estimated about 1,000 feet from the crash site, and then they hiked down to the crash site. There was a lot of brush, willows, alders, and they really had a bit of a challenge. It was very slippery getting down. So I'm going to share with you some information about their departure from the GCI Lodge and some of the operations. According to some of the folks who were at the GCI Lodge and in the vicinity at the time of that the aircraft was recognized to be lost. I want to state very clearly that this is preliminary information based on witness interviews, and a lot of work needs to be done to corroborate and establish the timeline. We have just arrived this afternoon. We've only spent a couple of hours on site at Dillingham, and we are still in the process of conducting additional interviews, and we really need to work very closely with the state authorities to correlate the timelines that we have. According to someone who was at the lodge with the group, that they ate lunch at the lodge, they discussed their departure, and they estimated that the group departed the lodge sometime around 3 to 3:15, and this is a very preliminary time estimate. That individual, who's also a pilot, estimated that the crash site was about 15 minutes in flight time from the lodge. The group was going to a fishing camp to fish for silver salmon. This was a Part 91 flight, and there was no FAA flight plan filed. They called the fish camp. They indicated around 6 p.m. to find out when the group might be coming back to the lodge for dinner, and it was at that point in time that they found out that the group never arrived at the fish camp. They set off in personal aircraft, and there were some other aircraft, private aircraft in the vicinity. They began looking for the aircraft, the missing aircraft, and at about 6:15, A number of them had set out from the lodge and in the vicinity. We were advised that one of the helicopters that was out identified the crash site around 6:30, and that then shortly after that, a private aircraft that was in the vicinity dropped off the physician at that drop area about 1,000 feet from the crash zone. Again, I want to restate we need to spend some time corroborating these timelines with the timelines that the state authorities and officials are using. And so this is just based on interviews of a witness who was in the vicinity at the time.